You ever notice how the loudest room isn't always the strongest one? How the person with the last word isn't always the one with the most peace? Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is none at all, because silence, real silence, is a weapon only the wise know how to use. And when you master it, you realize something divine. Defending yourself doesn't make you stronger. It often makes you weaker. See, when you feel the need to defend yourself, what you're really saying is, I need you to see me a certain way so I can feel safe. But when you stop defending, when you let people think what they want, believe what they want, you take your power back, because now your peace isn't held hostage by anyone's opinion. You stand in it. You rest in it. That's where strength lies. Here's the truth. People will misunderstand you. They'll twist your words, question your intentions, doubt your heart. And if you spend your life trying to correct every rumor, every judgment, every whisper, you'll waste all your energy fighting shadows. You'll lose your stillness chasing noise. But when you stand in silence, calm, unbothered, grounded, that's when you rise above the battlefield. Because silence isn't surrender. It's strategy. It's saying, I know who I am, and I don't owe proof to anyone. Your silence is not you giving up. It's you growing up. It's choosing maturity over reaction. It's choosing to let your fruit speak for you instead of your frustration. People who don't understand your silence will think you're weak. Until your peace starts speaking louder than their pride, that's when they'll see it. That quiet doesn't mean powerless. It means poised. It means you're listening to something higher, not the noise, not the chaos, but the still voice inside that says, stay still. I'll handle it. You don't need to explain your truth. Truth doesn't need defense. It needs demonstration. Keep showing up. Keep doing right. Keep walking clean. Let time testify, let character confirm, let peace prove what your words never could. Because when you stop explaining, you give space for God, for life, to reveal the reality for you. And that revelation will always speak louder than your defense ever could. Every time you choose silence instead of proving yourself, your spirit gets stronger. You break the addiction to being understood. You stop living for validation and start living from conviction. That's when peace moves in. That's when confidence becomes quiet. That's when real power begins. So when they misunderstand you, let them. When they lie, stay still. When they attack, stay kind. Because the moment you realize you don't have to fight every false thing said about you, you become untouchable. And that is real strength. Defensiveness is one of the most subtle traps of the ego. It feels like protection, but in truth, it's fear dressed as strength. When someone challenges you, misunderstands you, or questions your intentions, the instant pull to explain yourself, to prove your worth, to make them see your heart. That's the ego fighting to protect its image. It's not your spirit speaking, it's your insecurity begging to be seen as right. The ego is terrified of being misunderstood because misunderstanding feels like rejection. But the soul, the deeper, wiser part of you, doesn't need validation to feel safe. It already knows its truth. It knows that truth stands whether others see it or not. When you defend yourself out of emotion, you give away power. You hand control of your peace to someone else's opinion. Every defensive word becomes a rope tying your energy to their perception of you. And the more you pull, the tighter that rope becomes until your focus is no longer on who you are, but on convincing others who you're not. That's the weakness hidden inside defense. It keeps you bound to the external instead of rooted in the internal. But silence is strength cloaked in stillness. Silence is the quiet confidence that says, I know who I am, and nothing you say can change that. When you choose silence over defense, you step out of reaction and into mastery. You shift from proving to embodying. You no longer waste words trying to fix what only time and truth can reveal. You become untouchable, not because people stop attacking, but because you stop absorbing their attacks. The ego feeds on reactions. Every time you stay silent, it starves. It loses its hold. And what replaces it is peace, the kind that doesn't depend on understanding, agreement, or approval. This isn't passive silence. It's intentional restraint. It's strength guided by wisdom. It's the discipline of knowing that your energy belongs to your purpose, not to every passing argument. When you understand that you no longer feel the urge to explain yourself, you realize that truth defends itself through consistency, through calm, through the quiet dignity of being unmoved. And in that space, your silence becomes sacred, not empty, but full of power. The need to defend yourself often comes from an invisible wound, the belief that someone else's perception has the power to define your worth. When a person questions you, criticizes you, or distorts your intentions, there's a reflex deep inside that says, I have to make them understand me. But what's truly happening in that moment is the exposure of an insecurity. It's not that you're weak. It's that part of you still believes peace depends on being understood. You crave validation not because you lack truth, but because you've tied truth to approval. Yet the moment you try to control how others see you, you've already surrendered your power to them. Defensiveness is rarely about setting the record straight. It's about seeking reassurance that you're good, right, or worthy. It's emotional survival dressed as righteousness. But those who are truly confident don't need to convince. They understand that being misunderstood is a part of walking with authenticity. The truth doesn't need rescuing. It only needs to be lived. When you know who you are, other people's opinions lose their weight. They may still speak, still project, still assume, but none of it touches you because you've stopped giving them authority over your inner peace. Insecurity whispers, if I don't defend myself, they'll believe the wrong thing. But strength responds, they can believe whatever they need to. I know my truth. It's a quiet power, the kind that doesn't seek to win arguments because it's already won alignment with peace. When you reach that place, your silence is no longer avoidance. It's ownership. It's saying, I refuse to shrink my energy trying to fix your misunderstanding. You learn that people see you through their own lens, shaped by their own wounds, biases, and fears, and it's not your job to clean their glass. Real confidence isn't loud, it's calm. It doesn't rush to explain, it rests in knowing. Every time you choose silence instead of defensiveness, you reclaim a piece of your freedom. You step out of emotional dependency and into spiritual authority. You stop reacting from fear and start responding from peace. And in that stillness, you begin to see the truth clearly. You were never called to defend your light, only to keep shining it. Silence is not weakness. It is the quiet form of mastery that only those rooted in peace can carry. It takes far more strength to say nothing than to speak when your emotions are loud and your pride is wounded. Anyone can react, but it takes deep control to stay still when every part of you wants to explain, argue, or be heard. Silence is not about the absence of words. It's about the presence of wisdom. It's knowing that your peace is more valuable than being proven right, and that no argument is worth the energy it costs to maintain your calm. When you understand this, you stop seeing silence as defeat and start seeing it as discipline, a shield that protects your spirit from unnecessary battles. There's a certain grace in not responding. It confuses people who expect to fight. It disarms those who thrive on chaos, and it reminds you that your value doesn't live in their validation. Silence is strength because it's a choice, and every choice not to engage is a declaration that your emotions serve you, not the other way around. When you choose to remain silent, you aren't ignoring what was said. You're simply refusing to give it power over your peace. You're teaching your heart that calmness is your natural state, not conflict. That kind of self-control doesn't come from pride. It comes from spiritual maturity. When silence becomes your response, you begin to feel your inner world settle. The noise outside may still be loud, but it can't touch the quiet you've built within. You no longer feel the need to chase explanations or clear your name because the truth has a way of revealing itself without your help. You learn to trust time, to trust energy, to trust that what's real will always outlast what's loud. And in that stillness, strength grows. Choosing silence is not about letting others win. It's about letting yourself rise. Every time you stay calm when you could have reacted, you build spiritual muscle. You prove to yourself that peace is your power and silence is your weapon. Because the most powerful people aren't those who speak the loudest. They're the ones who no longer need to. Defending yourself keeps you tied to battles that were never meant for you. Every time you try to prove your innocence, justify your intentions, or correct someone's misunderstanding, you anchor your energy in a place that distracts you from your higher path. Not every accusation deserves your attention. Not every opinion deserves your explanation. And not every misunderstanding requires repair. Some conflicts are spiritual traps designed to pull you back into old patterns of ego, pride, and emotional reaction. When you feel compelled to defend yourself, pause and ask, what am I really trying to protect? Most times it isn't truth, it's image. And that image, that need to be seen as right, becomes a chain that binds you to the very noise you're trying to rise above. You were never created to fight every false story or opinion spoken about you. You were created to walk in purpose so clearly that truth reveals itself without your interference. When you step back and let go of the urge to defend, you allow the higher power, life, time, truth, or God, to do what only it can do. Defense keeps you focused on smallness. Silence keeps you aligned with greatness. When your eyes are fixed on your mission, you stop noticing the distractions screaming for your attention. That's when real freedom begins, when you no longer chase clarity in chaos. Defensiveness feeds the illusion of control. It makes you believe that if you just explain enough, people will finally see your heart. But that's not how truth works. People who want to misunderstand you will do it anyway, no matter how many times you explain. And those who truly know you, they don't need an explanation. They see your consistency, your peace, your integrity. That's what speaks louder than any words. The more you defend, the more you delay your destiny. The more you explain, the more you exhaust your purpose. Silence doesn't mean you don't care. It means you've chosen to guard your energy for the things that truly matter. You begin to understand that every battle you refuse to fight is a victory for your peace. Because purpose doesn't argue, it builds, it creates, it moves. And when you finally let go of defending yourself, you step fully into the strength of knowing the truth always defends those who stay still. The loudest proof of truth is not found in argument, it's found in consistency, character, and calm. Words can be twisted, emotions can be misread, and intentions can be doubted. But consistency never lies. When you live in alignment with integrity, when your actions echo your values day after day, your life itself becomes the loudest response. You no longer need to speak to be understood because truth has a way of making itself known through time. People may question your motives, your choices, or your silence, but eventually consistency exposes everything. The unstable crumble under time, the genuine remains steady. The truth is always patient, it never rushes to prove itself. When you understand this, you stop wasting your energy trying to convince others of what only time can reveal. You realize that calm is not indifference, it's confidence. It's the inner knowing that your peace is proof enough. When you can stay composed in the face of accusation, when you can respond with kindness in the face of hostility, you show a strength that words can't capture. Calmness confuses chaos, it reveals maturity. It silently says, I'm rooted too deeply to be shaken by noise. That's what makes your silence powerful, not as an escape, but as evidence that your foundation is unshakable. Character speaks long after conversations end. You don't need to defend who you are when your life already reflects it. The people meant to understand you will see you through your consistency, not your explanations. The ones meant to misunderstand you will do so no matter what you say. So why waste breath proving what your actions already show? The calm and consistent heart doesn't need to be right in the moment. It allows truth to unfold naturally. In a world obsessed with noise, reaction, and appearances, the person who stays calm becomes magnetic. Their presence carries authority because their peace cannot be provoked. That is what real truth feels like: steady, quiet, undeniable. Over time, your calm will speak louder than their chaos. Your integrity will speak louder than their accusation. Your consistency will speak louder than any defense. And when it does, you'll realize you never needed to prove a thing. You just needed to keep walking in truth. Silence allows divine timing to reveal what your words cannot convince. There are moments in life when speaking feels urgent, when you want to defend yourself, correct the story, or make people see your heart. But wisdom knows that truth doesn't always need to be spoken immediately. Sometimes truth needs stillness. It needs space. It needs time, because while your words can argue, time can prove. And what time exposes, no explanation ever could. The moment you release the need to be understood right now, you make room for something higher to work in your favor, the quiet justice that only divine timing can deliver. When you remain silent, you're not surrendering to injustice, you're surrendering to process. You're saying, I trust that what's real will last and what's false will fall apart. That trust is power. It's faith in motion. Life has a way of revealing truth in layers, not when you demand it, but when you're ready for it. When you stay silent, you let the noise die down, and what's left standing is what's real. Time exposes pretenders. Time validates integrity. Time has a perfect rhythm that aligns with truth. Your silence becomes a seed planted in that rhythm, waiting for the right season to bloom. There's a sacred strength in not rushing the revelation. Defensiveness comes from fear. Fear that lies will win. Fear that silence will be mistaken for guilt. But lies are short-lived. They burn bright for a moment and then collapse under their own weight. Truth doesn't compete, it endures. When you stay quiet, you're not losing ground, you're giving the truth room to breathe, to expand, to show itself in undeniable ways. You begin to understand that divine timing is never late. It's precise. Every moment of restraint is an act of alignment. Eventually, people who doubted you will see what you tried to explain. They'll witness the evidence you never had to present. That's the beauty of silence. It invites revelation to do what reasoning never could. You learn to wait, not with bitterness, but with certainty. Because silence isn't the absence of justice, it's the preparation for it. And when truth finally unfolds, it speaks louder, clearer, and stronger than any defense ever could. When you no longer feel the urge to explain yourself, you've begun walking in true confidence. There comes a moment in your growth when you stop needing people to understand you, when you stop trying to justify why you do what you do, and when you realize that peace is found in letting go of the need to be seen correctly. Confidence is not loud. It's not about proving your worth to anyone. It's quiet. It's steady. It's the calm assurance that your truth stands even when it's unseen, unheard, or misunderstood. When you no longer chase validation, you begin to live from a place of inner alignment rather than external approval. That's when your confidence stops depending on who agrees with you and starts being rooted in who you know you are. The urge to explain yourself comes from fear, the fear of being misjudged, rejected, or dismissed. But when you rise above that fear, you step into spiritual maturity. You begin to understand that explanations don't always bring peace. Sometimes they only create more confusion. Because people hear through the filter of their own wounds, and no matter how clearly you speak, they'll interpret your truth through their pain. That's why true confidence doesn't seek to be understood. It simply exists. It says, I know my heart, I know my path, and I don't need permission to walk it. You realize that silence is not avoidance, it's self-respect. It's saying, my energy is too valuable to spend proving what time will reveal. You learn to trust that your actions, your consistency, and your peace will tell your story better than any defense could. Confidence is built not in convincing others, but in choosing yourself every time you're misunderstood. You stop explaining because you've learned that not everyone deserves access to your reasoning, and not everyone has earned the right to understand your journey. That kind of confidence feels like freedom. You move through life lighter, clearer, grounded in purpose. You stop explaining your silence, your distance, your healing, your boundaries, because those who truly see you don't need an explanation, and those who demand one wouldn't believe it anyway. True confidence is the quiet knowing that your truth doesn't need to be defended, it just needs to be lived. Those who misunderstand you are meant to, because their perception is their lesson, not your responsibility. Every misunderstanding that people hold about you serves a purpose far greater than your desire to be seen clearly. Some people are not supposed to see your truth because their misjudgment teaches them something about themselves. Maybe it reveals their impatience, their lack of discernment, or their tendency to project their own insecurities onto others. Whatever it is, their misunderstanding becomes their mirror, not your burden. The moment you grasp this, you stop taking things personally. You stop wasting your breath trying to fix the image they've built of you in their minds. You understand that their perception doesn't change your reality, it only reflects their inner state. Trying to correct how others see you often pulls you out of alignment with who you really are. You begin performing for clarity instead of living in authenticity. But when you accept that being misunderstood is part of your spiritual path, you start walking lighter. You let people think what they need to think, because you know that truth is not fragile. It can survive misinterpretation. It doesn't need defense. It needs time. Some people will never understand your silence, your choices, your boundaries, or your peace, and that's okay. You're not here to be universally understood. You're here to be divinely aligned. When you stop chasing understanding, you reclaim your power. You realize that peace is not found in convincing others. It's found in letting go of the illusion that everyone has to see you correctly. Every misunderstanding becomes a filter that removes those who aren't meant to walk with you. It clears the space for people who see your heart without needing an explanation. And that's how life works. Clarity always comes, but not always through your words. Sometimes it comes through your stillness, through the quiet evidence of your consistency, through the grace that remains even when you're misjudged. Being misunderstood doesn't mean you're wrong. It means you're growing beyond their understanding. And growth will always confuse those who remain where you left them. So let them misunderstand. Let them misread your silence. Because those who are meant to truly know you will. And they won't need you to say a word. Power grows in restraint. Every time you choose silence over defense, you strengthen your spirit. True strength is not proven in how forcefully you respond, but in how gracefully you restrain yourself. It's easy to react when your name is being misused, when your character is being questioned or when your intentions are being doubted. But every time you resist that urge to explain, to prove, to fight back, you build a deeper kind of power, the power of emotional discipline. Restraint doesn't mean you're weak or indifferent. It means you've learned to master the energy within you. You understand that not every battle deserves your presence, and not every attack deserves your attention. That's where maturity begins, in knowing that peace is more valuable than proving a point. When you restrain yourself, you're not holding back out of fear, you're holding back out of wisdom. You know, that word spoken in defense often come from a wounded place, and wounds don't speak truth, they speak pain. So you choose silence, not because you have nothing to say, but because you refuse to speak from a place that isn't healed.
Yeah.
That kind of restraint is power in its purest form. It's saying, I trust that the truth doesn't need my urgency to be seen. It's an act of self-control that builds your inner stability, your spiritual clarity, and your confidence in who you are. Each time you hold your peace instead of defending yourself, your spirit becomes stronger. You start to feel a shift. The noise outside doesn't shake you the way it used to. You realize that silence doesn't mean surrender, it means sovereignty. You no longer let emotions run the show, you lead them. You begin to trust that what's meant for you will never be taken by misunderstanding, and what's not meant for you will fall away naturally. Restraint gives you that perspective. It opens your eyes to how much energy is wasted on things that don't truly matter. Power and restraint is the kind of strength that intimidates chaos. It's calm in the middle of accusation, patience in the middle of provocation, and clarity in the middle of confusion. Every time you choose silence, you choose mastery. You stop reacting to life and start ruling your own peace. The universe fights for those who stay still when provoked, because silence creates space for truth to speak louder than words ever could. There's a sacred power in refusing to engage with the noise around you. When people lie about you, misunderstand you, or try to drag you into conflict, your silence is not weakness. It's trust. It's the quiet confidence that something greater is working on your behalf, even when you say nothing. The universe, God, life, whatever name you give it, has a way of defending those who refuse to lower their vibration to match the chaos around them. Stillness is not inaction, it's alignment. It's choosing to let divine timing and unseen justice handle what human emotion cannot. When you stay still, you remove yourself from the battlefield that isn't yours to fight. You stop feeding the flames of misunderstanding with your words and instead let truth burn on its own. Silence becomes your shield, not because it hides you, but because it protects your peace long enough for reality to reveal itself. You begin to see how everything done in the dark eventually comes to light, and everything built on lies eventually collapses under its own weight. The universe always balances itself, and when you refuse to react, you allow that balance to work in your favor. Stillness is one of the most misunderstood forms of strength. It looks passive on the surface, but beneath it is unshakable faith. It's the awareness that reacting too quickly can block the blessings that patience is preparing. When you stay still, you give space for clarity to rise, for hidden truths to surface, and for peace to return. The universe doesn't need your defense, it needs your trust. The moment you release control, you invite divine order to step in and do what your words never could. Eventually, everything aligns, the truth surfaces, the noise fades, and your silence stands as proof that faith is louder than fear. Staying still when provoked is not about ignoring the storm. It's about trusting the calm within you more than the chaos around you. And when you master that stillness, life itself becomes your defender, and truth, unshaken, undeniable truth, becomes your voice. At some point, you realize that defending yourself isn't strength, it's distraction. True power doesn't come from proving who you are. It comes from knowing it so deeply that no one's opinion can shake it. The moment you stop explaining, you start evolving. The moment you choose silence, you reclaim your energy from everything that was never meant to hold it. Life isn't asking you to be louder, it's asking you to be still enough for your peace to speak for you. Let your calm be your answer. Let your consistency be your defense. Let your silence be your proof. Because the ones who truly carry strength don't fight to be understood. They live in a way that makes misunderstanding irrelevant. You don't have to chase truth. Truth stands on its own. You don't have to clear your name. Time will do that for you. And you don't have to defend your light. Your light will reveal itself when darkness tries to cover it. So stand still. Stay grounded. Keep your peace sacred. Because the highest form of power is not in being heard. It's in being unshakable when the world tries to make you speak.